Hiya, welcome to the old Sodcast number 7 tonight. We've had 7 of these already. Well, 7 plus a special that wasn't really like a Sodcast at all. But welcome. Thank you for joining us again. If you're watching either live or via the replay, Jimmy Barnes again alongside my co-host at Not Suitable for Mum, Mr. Jason Clow. Hi, Jason.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks, mate. Had a nice weekend so far. How's yours been?
Yeah, uneventful, shall we say? But
We shall say.
But for those of you that pay attention,
yeah, this is just a lot of exciting and urgent breaking news we have to.
It's a running gag.
Yeah. To cut a long story short, and it's not that long, but it's still boring. Jason's tidied up his sofa after nearly 6 years. Probably more than 6 years, really. So there we are. We've got 5 people, 6 people watching.
Oh, excellent.
Chums fan 1243 is the first one to come in the chat. Hi, you two. Hello, Chums. Thank you for joining us. So, what are we talking about today? Well, as you can see from the title, it's one that I think Jason's been dreading this one a little bit. He's had a few issues with thinking about stuff and research.
Yeah.
Alice is in the chat. Hi, Alice. Thanks for watching. Craig Bell's here. Hi, Craig. We already know Jim's guilty pleasure. If you've seen his record purchase video, or which one I've done like hundreds of them. And Tel Talks is in as well. Hi, Tel. Thanks for coming in, mate. We talk about guilty pleasures in music, and I wanted this to be as broad as possible. Maybe not just stick to songs, but maybe think about genres. Jason was worried about how to pronounce genre earlier on before we came live, but
cheers, mate.
Think of yourself like a Frenchman. You already smell like one. And, I wanted it to be just anything. It doesn't have to even be a sort of pop song or artist, really. It could be like music from advertising. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I've picked 4 particular things today. Jason might have a few more, but we'll see how we get on for time. And we'll discuss why we feel guilty about them. Maybe people can give us some feedback as to why we should or shouldn't feel guilty. And of course, tell us your own musical guilty pleasures in the chat. That we'd love to hear. So let's get it all nice and interactive. But in the meantime, I'm going to hand over to my co-host, Jason, who's going to kick us off first guilty pleasure.
Well, I'm going to bring my list up a minute, so make sure I'll try to put them in some order.
We've not told each other what we've. I think Jason knows one of mine actually, just because I had to give him an example when he was sort of struggling for ideas. But other than that, we don't know what each other have picked. So this is going to be a surprise for us as well as for you.
Okay, well, the first one is by an artist that, by and large, I can't stand. In fact, his greatest hit drives me absolute wall, right? I can't stand it. But my guilty pleasure is Rick Astley, Cry for Help.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, I do like that song.
It's not one I've. I will have heard it. I just can't think of it. Obviously, Rick Astley's big hit, the one everyone knows, and it got a kind of revival in meme form some years ago. It's Never Gonna Give You Up, and that's a song. As funny as it is to sort of hear it in inappropriate situations, I could happily live without never hearing that again.
Exactly.
Cry for Help. Interesting. Is that quite an early one of his, or
it's well, I suppose it's after he went long haired for a while, sort of. I think he was experimenting. I don't know whether it was done through Stockhaken and Waterman, because obviously that's what everyone knows him for, his stuff with them. It may have even been off his second or third album. I really don't know. But it's sort of a ballad, but it's very sort of almost acoustic. I think, if I remember correctly, it's got a bit of piano.
Yeah.
But it's quite different.
If it was long-haired Astley, then it wouldn't. That'd be, I would have thought, at least his second, probably maybe even his third album. Possibly.
Yeah, which is what I said. Yeah. So it was different for him. I was like, oh, this is actually ain't not half bad. I don't own it or anything. There's a lot of this stuff I don't own, but it's one of them. For me to admit that I actually like a Rick Astley song, when the vast majority of what he's done has been absolute tripe.
Yeah, Jack Dubs in the chat. Hope everyone's having a lovely Sunday. Thank you for joining us, Jack. Yeah, we're having a nice day. Thank you very much. I wonder if he would have performed that, because he was at Glastonbury the other week, weren't he? I wonder if he
was he?
Rick Astley, yeah. They do that at Glastonbury, don't they? Bring like a kind of sort of kitsch or cheesy act on.
Yeah, they always have done.
I think this year was his turn, but unless people are considering him a serious artist again, I mean, I don't know.
Don't know what he's doing now. He might be doing better songs these days. I don't know.
I know he's still writing and recording.
Is he? Right. Okay.
But of course, like everyone of a certain age, like, is gonna, when Rick Astley's performing, they're just gonna want him to do his great. I was gonna say his greatest hits, but like it's his greatest.
It's hit. Like that's it.
Well, Jack agrees with you anyway, Jason, that "Cry for Help" is his best song. So there we go.
Yeah, well there you go then. So I'm not alone.
I'll have to go away and listen to that after this, because I will have heard it. I just can't. Yeah. Nothing's coming to mind at the moment.
No, that's fair enough.
Yeah, interesting.
Just
Tell here saying Rick's done a 45-minute set with a band called Blossoms covering Smith's greatest hits. Yeah, to be fair, that sounds awful. And I like the Smiths. Sounds awful. I don't want to hear Rick Astley cover the Smiths.
No.
But yeah,
that just sounds wrong, doesn't it? And all the it sounds wrong for all the wrong reasons.
Craig says he did a cover of "Highway to Hell" at Glastonbury, which sounds just as awful. But, and it was at Glastonbury. He did these Smiths covers as well. So
he did. I don't know if it was his big hit or not, but I know he did appear on stage with the Foo Fighters, didn't he?
Did he?
Yeah, one of their tours he was on. He came on and did. It might have been "Never Gonna Give You Up," and they did like a rock version of it.
Well, you'd have thought so, wouldn't you? I mean, they're not going to really like bother their arse learning a cover of "Whenever You Need Somebody" or one of his lesser hits, are they?
Yeah. And I won't say the word, but he tried to be cool by using the MF word. It's like, no, Rick, shut up. But it's one of his.
Chum's guilty pleasures include Liquid Dreams, Cartoon Heroes. I think I remember Cartoon Hero. That was back. Larger Than Life. I think that's Backstreet Boys. Everybody Get Up. That's Backstreet Boys as well.
Yeah.
Damaged, Inner Smile. I know Texas did one called Inner Smile. I wouldn't see why that's a guilty pleasure. That's probably something. And Shocked. I think Kylie did Shocked. Thank you for that, Chums. And Jack's guilty pleasures are pop songs from 2009 to about 2015. Bit vague, but fair enough. So if people want to get more specific, like our Chums did, then please do.
Yeah. There's some interesting selections there. I don't mind Kylie, actually. I've got no guilty pleasure about liking her stuff. But certainly the stuff after she left Stockacre and Waterman anyway. And the stuff she did with people like Nick Cave and that I thought were very good.
I didn't like that duet with Nick Cave. But I don't like Nick Cave. That's the thing. Like,
fair enough.
One of those artists, like, I don't know, like sort of like you kind of trendy bohemian types are into, and I just can't get on board with them. Well, it's not. Don't do anything for me, Nick Cave.
He's a bit emo.
Kylie, just not asked about any of his stuff at all.
Yeah, he's a bit morbid as well, isn't he, old Nick Cave?
Well, I think it's that voice he's got. I mean,
yeah,
I don't. He feels there's probably stuff he's done that I've never heard that I'd probably find quite pleasant, but just everything I've heard, I've not bothered with.
But no, I mean all that. She was, she did Manic Street Preachers and.
She's kind of worked with him, but I mean, it's her indie Carly period. Carly isn't any of our choice. Well, it's certainly not one of my choices. I don't think it's one of Jason's either, because he wouldn't have mentioned her so early. But
no, exactly.
Jack says Carly's great. You have no guilt whatsoever.
Yeah,
excellent. So, anything else you want to say about Rick Astley or?
No, I think we've given him plenty enough airtime.
Right, so it's my turn to let you know what my first guilty pleasure. These aren't in any particular order, by the way. This is just how I thought of them and sorted them out. But why simply just tell you what my guilty pleasure is when I can also show you? I know Jason's was disgusted. You couldn't see his face, but I could, and he was he was absolutely repulsed by that.
You should feel guilty, mate. Good grief! Go on then.
That was the 1982 single 70s by the Goombay Dance Band. And for some reason, I've really liked that. I love it. In fact, I'll go that far. And yeah, it's a guilty pleasure because I've got no interest in kind of Goombay Dance Band and their entire catalogue. I think I looked up a couple of their other tracks once years ago, and I wasn't impressed, to put it that way. I will read you a little bit about them. As I did look them up, they were created in 1979 in Germany by Oliver Bent, who I think was the Fire Eater guy. So that's a gimmick that not many bands can say they have. And it was named after Goombay, which is a small bay on the Caribbean island of St. Lucia. And their music's got a distinctive sound, somewhat similar to Boney M.
Ish.
Of soccer or soca, I'm never sure how to pronounce that, calypso and western pop. And of course they said they had the hits at the beginning of the 80s, spanning such #1 hits as 70s and Son of Jamaica, but I don't think Son of Jamaica, it's not one I know anyway, but I don't think that got to #1 in the UK. I've just looked it up, and Son of Jamaica got to number 50.
I think
so
they
are
heard of
pretty
that,
much, in the UK at least, a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
Jack's with me on that one. I mean, I can't really talk, speak as to, why it's so great. It's just one of those. It's a nice. I like the melody. It makes me feel uplifted and happy. And I always like to see the Top of the Pops performances. I think there's probably an official promo video out there somewhere. But I like the fire breathing guy who I think's like he's like the band. It's they kind of getting on into that Euro pop kind of genre that I do.
Well, yeah, so you like that, which is fair enough.
It's very early sort of Euro disco and Euro pop. And two things that you won't hear me mention as guilty pleasures in this video because in this stream because I don't feel guilty.
Well, this is what I was saying. Yeah.
It's me liking Italo disco and me liking happy hardcore, which are two quite sort of niche genres. But just have a look at the chat here. Chums' other guilty pleasures are "You'll Be Sorry" by Steps, "Never Can Say Why." Oh, that was I don't
Jimmy Somerville.
The cover of that. "Life Is a Roller Coaster." That was by Ronan Keating. "Loving Each Day." That might have been Boyzone or Keating. "All That She Wants" and "The Sign." "Cruel Summer," all by Ace of Base, although "Cruel Summer" was also by Bananarama. I love Ace of Base. I wouldn't feel guilty about that. "Say What You Want" and "Hella Good." By I wouldn't class anything by Texas to be really something to feel guilty about.
Hella Good was by No Doubt, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah, well remembered. Yeah.
No, I liked No Doubt. You know, so I don't think that's one you need to feel guilty about myself. Right? I thought they were quite a good band. Even as cheesy as it is, that don't speak as cheesy as hell, but I still like it.
Oh, I almost missed your previous comment, Jack, that you were just watching the 70s video. What coincidence.
Yeah.
So, Jack got a repeat airing of that tonight, which you probably didn't expect. But
there you go.
Yeah, I can't really go into any great analysis. I wouldn't have been very old when it came out, but it's one of those things. I think it's kind of like you hear it, and it's like it kind of triggers some sort of almost subconscious memory you have as a toddler or something like that.
I think for me, it was so overplayed.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was.
It's like every time you went on the radio, there's bloody sound chromes on, and to me, it wasn't.
There's a lot of stuff that, in my opinion, over the years has been overplayed, but it wouldn't be considered a guilty pleasure. It'd be like it's been heard too much. But
yeah.
I don't know. Goombay Dance Band. I do remember it being on. I think it's a CD my mum used to have many years ago. It was like on this. It was like one of these ironic kind of compilations. It was like the worst album in the world ever, and it was just full of novelty songs.
Have you actually?
And that was like the second or third track on it.
Have you actually got it?
No, I don't own that.
When I go down to my mum and dad's next.
No, well, yeah, well, okay.
I'll have a look.
We can discuss you raiding your parents' terrible record collection benefit, and later.
Yeah, because I'm sure I've seen the cover of it. I'm sure they've got it.
Yeah. Craig keeps bringing ABBA up. Like, I don't feel guilty about liking ABBA. I'm not. They're not one of my choices.
You either like them or you don't. I think. With ABBA.
Well, Jason's made his feelings about ABBA pretty clear.
Yeah,
I'm not picking ABBA tonight. I don't find them a guilty pleasure. I think they're a good Euro pop band. Chums are still giving us loads of guilty pleasures here. I think Chums is just listing every top 10 hit ever from the last 15 years.
It's everything he's got in his record collection.
Some interesting stuff from Jack. Anything by New Kids on the Block and Bros tend to be your guilty pleasures. You know what?
No.
I used to like New Kids on the Block when I was a kid. I didn't like Bros. I'm never into them particularly, apart from what was the one I did like? I think it might have been Cat Among the Pigeons. I thought was all right.
I had to take my sister to go and see them, otherwise she wasn't allowed to go. So there you go. That you can understand why I detest them.
Not really. You could have gone and been won around by them, Jason.
They were as a live band, right? Because they were a band, right? I will give them that much credit, right? They were okay, but I've seen a hell of a lot of better bands since and before. So I just thought they were overrated, personally.
Okay. Well, it's your turn to tell us your guilty pleasure now.
Okay.
We've had Rick Astley's Cry for Help and 70s by Goombay Dance Band. What is Jason going to pick for his second?
Right. Well, this is again is a single, and I generally don't like any the boy bands, girl bands, all of that malarkey. Just I hate it with a passion. You know that.
Yeah, however, that's because you think you're cool and you're not.
No. It's just because it's trite. But anyway, there is one that I do like, and it's from the Mr. Bean movie, and it's "Picture of You" by Boyzone.
Oh right, okay.
I do actually quite like it, and the video's pretty cool as well.
Yeah, it is actually. I remember the video.
Yeah,
it's not a cover version, that is it?
No, I don't think so. Yeah. Well, it's for me. It's one of the songs that's got better lyrics than most of the rest of them. Right, I do like the lyrics and the meaning behind it.
It's an all right pop song. That Funnily enough, also from the Mr. Bean film, Wet, Wet, Wet covered Yesterday, didn't they?
I don't remember that one.
They did, yeah. It wasn't as big a single as Picture of You, but it did come out. Might have been a double A side or something, and it maybe scraped the top 10, possibly.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, Picture of You. Boyzone's are actually interesting. I almost picked a Boyzone song myself as one of my guilty pleasures.
Yeah,
and it might have been my number 5, but I don't think I'm going to get past 4 each tonight. But
we'll see.
One I want to mention is Father and Son, but that is actually a cover. That was originally Cat Stevens, but for some reason, I like the Boyzone cover better than the Cat Stevens original. I like them both. I think they both good, but I like the Boyzone version better for some reason.
I prefer the Cat Stevens one myself.
Well, yeah, I mean, most people would prefer the Cat Stevens one, but for some reason, I like Boyzone's cover the best.
I can certainly understand why you would like it. I kind of get it. Boyzone were one of the, what should we say, less obnoxious boy bands.
Yeah.
You know. And Ronan's voice isn't unpleasant.
He's got a good voice. I've never sort of want to go out and buy all their albums and all the rest of it and put posters up, but as just as like a kind of standard boy band, male vocal group, I think Boyzone is kind of tolerable at the very least, really, for the most part.
Yeah.
Westlife, I always found them a bit too bland. I think they just kind of watered down what Boyzone did for me. Really.
Yeah, I think so.
They were all about kind of like the earnest and trippy ballads and stuff. I know they covered Uptown Girl, but the thing is, I can't stand Uptown Girl anyway.
Oh, I don't mind Billy Joel.
I find it an absolute puddle of piss, Uptown Girl. And that's the Billy Joel version I'm on about. I'm not even on about like the Westlife cover.
Yeah.
But a Picture of You from the Bean soundtrack. Great film, by the way. No problems with thinking about Bean, the ultimate disaster movie again.
Yeah. No, I only really remember the first one. I don't think I saw the rest.
I'm on about the first film, Being the Disaster.
I thought it was. Have I got around the wrong way then? Mr. Bean on Holiday.
No, that's the second one.
Right, okay.
Yeah, but
got around the wrong way.
Boyzone weren't on there as far as I can remember, anyway.
No, you're probably
Good
right.
Night Girl from Wet 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 mentions Jack. I don't like that. If I did like it, I don't think I'd feel overly guilty about it. But as far as Wet 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 go, that's not one of my favourite. I know it was a big hit. It got to the number one. Spent about 3 or 4 weeks at number one, I think. Good Night Girl, and I couldn't understand it because for me it was just a bit kind of meandering and bland. But love it all around. I can understand why that did so well because it was a bit of an earworm, that. But anything else you want to say about Boyzone today?
No. Again, given enough fair time.
These guilty pleasures. I mean, like a lot of them just don't really bear an awful lot of analysis, really.
No.
I don't think Jason would want to analyze sort of like his one sort of differing opinion of the wonderful Celtic sounds of Boyzone.
Yeah, Celtic.
Yeah. Well, from Ireland. So,
well, yeah, that's about as close as it gets.
Well, yeah.
It's hardly clanning, is it?
True, that's true. Yeah. I mean, it's the cause, really, I think, kind of combine a kind of, standard pop sound with a few sort of Celtic kind of sounds as well.
Yeah. That's a fair comment.
So, moving on from a surprising choice, but I can see why it'd be a guilty pleasure because let's face it, you don't look like the typical Boyzone fan.
No, definitely not.
You don't really look like the typical anything, to be honest.
There you go, one of a kind, mate.
But an interesting choice. So you ready for my second choice?
Yeah, go for it, mate.
All right, here it is. Angry Anderson, suddenly from, I think, 1988. And before you ask, Jason, I do have the single. I've had it for many years.
Yeah.
On 7-inch. So Angry Anderson, Australian singer. Oh, I should have looked his information up actually. But he was in a band for many years. I think he's back in them now. This band had been going since like the early 70s or something. Of course, suddenly was the love theme or the wedding theme from the Wedding on Neighbours of Scott Robinson to Charlene Ramsey.
Ramsey, yeah.
It's sad.
It was Ramsey Street.
Well, we're back to Kylie again, so we need to see a little bit of Kylie in this video.
There you go. Yeah.
Jack says, "I'm knocking him out the park." Angry Anderson. It's complete wuss rock, isn't it? But I don't know. Just something about that song has always. I've always liked it, and I wonder what number it got to in the Rose Tattoo is the band he's been in since 1976. And I think
yes, I've heard of them. Yeah.
Oh, you've heard of them, have you?
Yeah.
Suddenly was a hit. It originally came out in 87. It would have come out 88, I think, in over here because we were,
quite a bit behind.
With Neighbours, and we were probably about a year to 18 months behind.
Yeah.
I'll just have a look at where it got to in the charts if I can pull that information up nice and quick.
I think it did pretty well.
Number 3 in the UK.
Yeah.
It actually only got to number 2 in Australia. I say only in Australia. I was expecting it to have been a big number 1 over there, but no, number 2 in Australia, and that would have been in 87. So yeah, Angry Anderson is when I was reading about him not too long ago, is I feel more guilty about being a fan of his generally because he's got into politics really over I think the last maybe 15 years or more, and he is a bit right wing, if you know what I mean. He's like he has some very sort of outspoken views on immigration and certain minorities. So
yes,
it's I don't think he's the nicest person. I mean, when your nickname's Angry, I mean, I suppose it's But
I wondered if it was
it's not like he's Jolly Jason or something, or
I wonder if they were kind of being a bit ironic in that, when he was actually quite a jovial chap.
But no, I think like his gimmick was being a bit of a grumpy sod anyway. So
right, okay.
Tell has reminded us quite rightly it was also the wedding song in Gavin and Stacey. It certainly was.
Never seen that.
Alice has also mentioned another one of her guilty pleasures. It's Spice Girls Wannabe.
Yeah.
Tums has mentioned My Heart Will Go On. I like My Heart.
Oh God, no.
It's not one of my picks tonight, but that would have possibly been a contender.
I couldn't even stand that My Heart Will Go On, even when Skin did it as the Masked Singer.
Oh, she sung that on The Masked Singer, did she?
She did indeed.
Evening, James 82, James Hindle. Thank you for coming in. You've just missed a nice brief shot of Angry Anderson belted out suddenly on an episode of Top of the Pops. Of course, assuming I've got to cut anything later on, stuff will be available on the replay.
Yeah. No, that song's preferable to the Gumbay Dance Band. I think with that song, if it just come out as a song, I might have liked it a bit more. But because it was all to do Neighbours, it all felt a bit cheesy.
Yeah, it was. It's an interesting point that. Like, I wonder how well it would have done had it had nothing to do with Neighbours.
Yeah.
It might have done because obviously Angry Anderson and his band Rose Tattoo were quite well established for 10 years or more when it came out in Australia. So it probably would have had a pretty big hit with it in Australia. But would we have ever heard it over here? That's the thing.
Who knows?
So it's quite an interesting sort of
I don't know whether it was
moment there. the producers and Neighbours decide to use it as the wedding theme for
Yeah.
Scott and Charlene, and suddenly it's an international hit. So
Well, that's the thing. I don't know whether he wrote it beforehand and it was sort of like reissued as part of that, or whether
no, it looks like it was well, if not made especially for Neighbours, it was made around the same time, and
yeah,
it was the first time it had come out in '87 when the wedding was broadcast in Australia, and then the following year the UK. Craig just mentions about the Tony Moran dance remix. I do remember that actually, Craig.
yeah.
It was a good remix that, but I'm a big remix guy anyway.
I don't mind them. Yeah, there's some good remixes out there.
Yeah, so Angry Anderson, bit of an unpleasant guy, I think, by all accounts, unless you're into kind of, casual racism and things like that.
Yes.
But so maybe a good reason to feel guilty about liking Suddenly, but
yeah.
I think it's as wuss rock, as I like to call it, goes. It's up there with the best. I do feel a little bit guilty about it because, yeah, it's completely cheesy when you still associate it with Neighbours and in more recent years, Gavin and Stacey to an extent as well.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I've got the single, and it's a guilty pleasure. It always has been. It always will be. God, we're going through these quite quick, aren't we, Jason? Yeah, you might have to pontificate someone on your next choice. So let's have it.
Okay. Well, I can go into this in a fair bit of detail actually, and this is retro video game music. Because you said to pick something a bit obscure, so I did. Right.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Well, you know me. I like my retro games, and you were always big on the Commodore 64, weren't you? So
yeah.
You may well remember
like the music from a SID chip. Yeah. Fantastic stuff.
Well, for what it was, 3 channels, and they were. I was reading a little bit about it actually, and they were saying how they were able to get some of the effects like the electric guitar because it was all to do with the clicks, right? The clicking sound, and they would elongate it, change the pitch, and that was how they got some of the sounds they got. Because they had like electric guitars and all sorts in there, didn't they? In some of them.
Yeah.
Right, and there was even
resemble them. Yeah.
Yeah, there was even some very basic sampling as well.
But
64 is the main one that I know of. The sort of it's a nostalgia thing, right? But there's Rob Hubbard, who you may well remember.
So,
he did.
Sorry,
Rob Hubbard.
Name's not ringing much of a bell.
No. Well, he was like one of the more prolific guys on there. He did Monty on the Run. Yeah, which I absolutely love that tune, especially the end credits. Commando. Crazy Comets.
Mm-hmm.
No, not ringing any bells. International Cry.
Oh, but James has beat me to something. Yeah. Have you actually picked a guilty pleasure here, or are you just going?
Well, it is a guilty pleasure because it's the genre. Listening to old school, 8-bit computer tunes. It's a bit, it's a bit of a weird nerdy thing, isn't it?
Mm.
Very nerdy, and especially before games were popular. Right?
I do feel you grasping a little bit here because people. I mean, I've heard. I quite like chip tunes. When like popular music gets remade in that sort of 8-bit style. I quite like a lot of that.
But the thing is with you, right, and I think this is partly why I like it, right? You like synth pop, don't you?
For the most part, yeah.
So it's got that. I always thought the synth chip had that kind of feel. Right? You were using something like a Moog or the old Casio keyboard or something like that, right? I don't know. It was just because it was ingenious. I liked it because it was ingenious of what they could do with what was quite limited, really, right? And again, right, I say because it was, back in the 80s, to be into computer games, you were an absolute nerd. You were the biggest nerd of all of them. Now it's cool. But people don't necessarily know about all the retro stuff because most people you speak to, they grew up with like the NES and the Master System and all that lot. If not the older ones, you could say it's clutching at straws a little bit, but I just thought it was something a bit different and not something that a lot of people would listen to. I could quite happily have the music on in the background and be fine with it. And you've even got a lot of the groups that were around then and then sort of the 90s as well that supported it, because you had John Fox from Ultravox, and he collaborated with Tim Sinfulman with the bass. They did a thing called Nation 12, and they did the tunes for Gods, called Into the Wonderful, which is a cracking song, and Brutal Deluxe for Speedball 2. That was good, and they actually went and made some proper records as a group. The other side you've got in it, which is the thing that intrigues me, is you've got there's like a German orchestra that does retro 8-bit stuff, but all with proper violins and all the proper instruments. So they've recreated it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What else? There's a band called Press Play on Tape. I think they're Swedish, and they do tours all over the place. And they're a rock band, but again they're doing the old school things like Bubble Bubble, for argument's sake. They do a rock version of Bubble Bubble.
Right. Okay. It doesn't sound like you're feeling guilty about any of this.
Well, no, that's what I said to you, right? And even the Rick Astley stuff, I don't really feel that guilty about it.
Well, perhaps you should. I mean, it's Rick Astley.
Yeah. So. No, but that's why I was saying to you, it's difficult to pick something.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think you really needed to sort of delve into the bowels of your memories, really, and just try and think of stuff that maybe you heard as it could have been a TV theme or something like that. I mean, it could be like, oh, I'm really into the Coronation Street or Crossroads theme. In fact, Wings covered the Crossroads theme, didn't they?
Did they?
Yeah, I'm sure they did on one of their albums.
Wow, okay, that's weird.
If anyone can verify that for me and tell us which album it was, I'd appreciate that. I'm certain they covered the Crossroads theme, and it was on one of their albums. So yeah, Wings, people. Only the band The Beatles could have been.
Yeah. No, I've got Band on the Run. I don't think it's on there. Or I don't remember hearing it anyway. There was another one of theirs as well. I think I've got 2 or 3 albums there, so I don't think it was on any of those. But I'll have to have a look. Nothing to say about it.
There's another soap-related guilty pleasure from James here. Anyone can fall in love with Anita Dobson.
Oh, God, no.
It's a fair shout, that, actually.
It's a guilty pleasure, for sure. Well, guilty. I don't know about pleasure.
And Craig Bell, MC Mario, you guess would be a guilty pleasure.
Oh, crikey.
That came out around 92. If I remember reacting to a little bit of that on a Top of the Pops, and it sounded like cag.
It did.
I think I quite liked it when I was 11, 12 years old, and then I heard it again like in recent years, and I thought, this sounds... But
see, there again, you see, that's all someone's done from that. It's written the music off of the Game Boy and then put some drums over it, effectively.
It just, it didn't sound good. Every Loser Wins by Nick Berry, another classic. Yeah, we'll continue with the EastEnders theme here from James.
Yeah.
That got to number 1, of course, Nick Berry. Anita Dobson, it did make the top 10, but it wasn't a number 1. I can't remember what number Anita Dobson was at. Video game music, Commodore 64 in particular, you say is your guilty pleasure. I don't think you can count this as a guilty pleasure, to be honest.
Right. Well, I've got some other ones later, so I can make up for that.
Okay.
I apologise.
No, well, if it was an interesting thing to mention, and I just, I think you like it all too much for it to qualify myself.
Yeah, it's not something I listen to a lot, though. You see,
IRH, your guilty pleasure is "I'm Blue" by Eiffel 65. Nothing to feel guilty about, Rach. A fine Euro dance track, that one. Chums also mentions "Barbie Girl" by Aqua.
Oh God.
That's been sampled recently by Nicki Minaj and someone else for the new.
Oh well, that tells you what you need to know then.
Yeah. So, anything else you want to talk about relating to?
No. But do go and check out. Do go and check out Nation 12 though, because they are a good band. They only did a little bit, but if you like Ultravox, because I say it's John Fox from that. Then you may well like what they've done. I think they only did about 4 singles, right? Which I've still got to get a couple of them, actually.
Hey, I like Dr. Jones by Aqua Rach. I think that were better than Barbie Girl personally, but yeah.
Yeah, not by much though.
Well, I've got that album. It got reissued. Was it early this year or late last year? Late last year, I think. Aquarium by it was Aquarium.
Didn't they do a record store day release as well or something?
I don't know. Yeah. 2 Times by Ann Lee from Chums. Yeah, I wouldn't have said that was novelty particularly, that one. I remember it. I think I had the CD single of that. I think I went off it a little bit. Yeah, and Turn Back Time Back was genuinely good. Yeah, great pop song. Yeah. It was really kind of a left turn from Dr. Jones and Barbie Girl, but yeah, some good shouts relating to Aqua. Right, so shall I show you my third?
Yeah, go for it, mate.
All right, here we go. Next. I'm preparing to feel really guilty here.
Yeah.
Jason knows the answer to this. I just wondered if anyone will be able to answer in the chat. What's the common theme running between those 3 songs? Then I'll give you half a minute or so to answer while people are thinking about it. Alex about the Barbie Girl sample. It was from Nicki Minaj and Ice Spice, Barbie World from this year. There we go. James has got it. It's bagpipes in pop songs. Jason knew this was coming because I gave him this as an example.
I didn't know you were actually going to use it, but yeah.
Well, why? I mean, it's I should feel at least a little bit guilty about it. Apologies to any Scottish people here who love the sound of bagpipes. Well, to be fair, I love bagpipes. I like bagpipes. I like how they sound. As long as they play properly, of course. Obviously, don't include Ross in Friends in that or anything like that. Jack, as a Scot, I'm trying not to be offended. Leroy Screwballs with his guilty pleasures. YMCA all day long. Bender, love it since Glaze. Carnival de Paris. Yes, that's one. So I was trying to think of pop songs that I really like that definitely have bagpipes in. Nearly went Big Country, but the thing is, Big Country, they didn't use bagpipes. They just had a production style that made
it's
like it had bagpipes in.
You think it ought to have had bagpipes in it, but I don't know they ever used them.
Yeah, I mean, if they did like a collaboration album with like the Highland Pipers or something like that, it'd sound really, really good.
What about the Alarm? Didn't they use bagpipes in some of their songs?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but those were three that I knew were A liked, and B, definitely had bagpipes in. That isn't singling out Scooter, Rod Stewart, or Wings, because they're three acts who I'm not actually a big fan of. Rod Stewart, but that is a song of his I've always liked. Scooter, I'm a fan of, and Wings, I am a kind of I'm more Beatles, but I kind of like some of their stuff. I was stopping people mentioning ABBA. Like, we do that. I refuse to really talk too much about ABBA in this, because they proved themselves to be a long-staying and big-selling and credible, maybe not the coolest, but a credible pop act. And I don't feel guilty about liking them, and nor should any of you. I was waiting for Jason there.
No, I'm not saying anything.
Wings, the band the Beatles could have been, but Angels by Robbie Williams is that's one. I wouldn't say it's guilty pleasure. I'd just say it's something I've heard at least once too often in my lifetime by Angels. But I like bagpipes in pop songs particularly. I like bagpipes generally played well. If I see like a Highland Guard on telly and they're playing bagpipes and it sounds good and they've got the drums and everything, and I think, oh, that's pleasant, and that's probably quite unusual, because some people, my eldest Emily, for instance, she often mentions it. Like, in fact, I think she only mentioned it today at lunchtime. She hates the sound of bagpipes, even when they play well.
It depends on how they're used. I think in the right context they're fine. The Rod Stewart song, I get it completely. Monica Tire, fine. Scooter song, I don't really know. Right? Someone probably better than me, because I don't really listen to them. But Korn use bagpipes, don't they?
I think they have done, yeah.
Oh, Jonathan Davies played it live on stage.
Jack Dubs, you've mentioned the song I love there, and it slipped my mind. But Love Is Everywhere. Yeah, I think it's real. I think it's real bagpipes in that as well, from Cicero. Love Is Everywhere. Fantastic song, that, Jack. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one. When I was compiling my clips for this, that one didn't enter my head, sadly, and I would have used that. Getting into wrestling themes now, Big Boss Man's theme song, happy to listen to, the Hard Time one. We're serving Hard Time. And Leroy with Shaking Stevens. I didn't think you would have felt guilty about it. You ought to, because Shaking Stevens. Oh, I watched, they were Top of the Pops on BBC 4 the other week, and Shaking Steve, it was from about, I think, 1988 or 89. So this was like when Shaky wasn't having that many hits anymore, but he'd got in the top 50. And he was like, I'd never heard it before. It was this, it was like a kind of almost sort of like a dance pop kind of song. And he had all these sort of like really oiled up male dance. It was one of the gayest things you ever saw. It was Shaking Stevens' performance. It just looked so weird. In with all these male dancers. It was so odd. I'll have to try and find that clip and send it to you. I was just sat there open mouth, like what is this? What Shaky's resorted to now? Now the hits have dried up. It's like, I don't know. He might have been on Stock Aitken Waterman for a bit. I don't know.
Well, that would explain a lot.
Yeah. It was so odd. It didn't because obviously Shaking Stevens. I mean, I don't like him, but I think anyone who does like him, you should feel guilty about it. So I think he would qualify as a guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
So if you feel guilty about it, Leroy, good. That's all fine. But for me, he's just like a kind of pound shop Elvis, really. And he's a Welsh Elvis, isn't he? So there's nothing, there's nothing really credible about anything in his career as far as I'm concerned. But just this complete departure, and Just the performance on top of them, it was like unexpected. Like all these oiled up male dancers, something out of some gay nightclub somewhere. You expect it for like Madonna or Kylie, and then there's the old Welsh rock and roller sort of mincing on the stage. It's like it just didn't. It was like some sort of fever dream I were having, but I can't even remember. I should have made a note. I can't even remember the name of the track.
Yeah.
It were pretty appalling, but by Shaky's standards, I probably preferred it to some of his like better known stuff. Leroy says he debunked Elvis.
Hey?
Oh right. Well, what? As in
debunked? I'm not sure what you're getting at.
Yeah.
What you mean? He's still alive?
James says flashback to the Britpop chart. Shampoo Trouble, loved it when it wasn't.
Oh, that's atrocious.
I didn't like. I have to agree with Jason here. I never liked that at all. I kind of got it. I got the kind of vibe behind it, but as a song, I wasn't keen.
Yeah, it's like that blooming. I can't even remember who did it now.
I get it. Yeah, Frampton's explained his joke. Yeah, I get it now.
Yeah.
Oh, it's time to debunk Elvis, isn't it? Behind the green door back.
No, it's said about that shampoo though. Well, there's another song that's equally as bad. Was that Menemenef song or wherever the hell that was that did that?
Oh, that was
some boy band, girl band.
That was No Way, No Way by Vanilla. I had that single.
God, it's bloody awful.
They were like a kind of Spice Girls, if like you'd found the Spice Girls at your local Netto or something like that. Yeah. They were pretty ropey Vanilla, but I found that quite charming actually. The fact that there was like they're a real sort of like conference league Spice Girls.
Yeah. And the fact they were trying to do something from the Muppets without even actually sampling it or anything.
Yeah, but I didn't mind that because I didn't really at the time. I wasn't like overly asked about the Muppets In fact, I'm not asked about it now, to be honest.
Well, no, but
actually, that's not a bad shout from Chums there. Hillbilly Rock, Hillbilly Roll by the Woolpackers. Yeah, I'd consider that a bit of a guilty pleasure. I think I've got that digitally, weirdly enough.
I had to sing that on stage with as part of a pantomime troupe.
Leroy, that's not her name. That's the Ting Tings. Oh, that was something else that was overplayed about.
Yeah, that was diabolical as well.
20 years ago, maybe a bit less.
Yeah.
Apparently, Shakin' Stevens covered "Trouble" by Ping.
Oh, crikey!
Yeah. So yeah, but I know I've talked more about Shakin' Stevens than bagpipes, but I've got to go and find that Shaky performance again because it was just so funny to see all these like bare-chested dancers. It was bizarre.
Yeah.
There again. Although I've given 3 examples, that's not, as I said before, it's not singling out. Oh, Rod Stewart's a guilty pleasure because he's not. Scooter certainly aren't a guilty pleasure. I've been a Scooter fan for many years. And Wings, obviously, Paul McCartney, living legend. I think I've probably said enough about bagpipes in pop music. I approve. I hope to hear much more as time goes on. But I think it's time for Jason, and hopefully he's going to feel rather more guilty this time than he did when he was giving a lecture on game music.
All right, I'm going to go for really good because I picked several things. Jimmy Somerville. I feel a bit guilty about liking him because he was high pitched, disco-y, to a certain extent electro poppy, wasn't he?
Yeah,
especially with Bronski beat.
Yeah,
it's not generally the sort of thing I listen to, and yet for some reason. There's not all right. I don't know about the stuff he did on the albums, but most of the singles that he's ever been on, I do like. Right, I don't know why. Right, and it's not sort of something that certainly me being by and large a rock fan really think would listen to. But Brother Bronski beat were great. I thought they were really cool. They just love the sound.
I preferred the Communards, I will say, to Bronze Beat generally, but that's just I think I get where you're coming from with that.
Yeah.
His voice is, I suppose, is an acquired taste the right term?
Yeah, well, it's that whole is it falsetto voice?
It might be. I don't. That might be his official range. I don't honestly know.
It's more pleasing. It's more pleasing to me than say the Bee Gees, right? Because they got that sort of similar high pitched thing, but it's not. It's not like someone sped up, like they did a lot of kids stuff where like the Chipmunks or the Smurfs or whatever, they sped up the voices. His voice is actually, he's got a good range, right? And I would say, I would even go so far as to say he has a beautiful voice. Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. It's not something I should really like, but for some reason I do.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I do agree with you here to the most extent, really. You don't really hear anything of Jimmy Somerville anymore, do you? I think he's still recording, but
I believe so, yeah.
But he's just not someone who like bothers the charts or anything anymore.
No, I did read something that he doesn't tour as such now. He does like private functions and stuff.
Right.
So you hire him to come and do it, sort of a nostalgia act, I suppose. Oh, bloody hell. Yeah, less said about that bloke, the better.
True. I've not really got anything to sort of to argue with you, much as I like arguing with you for no good reason, Jay.
Yeah.
So I can't.
I think some of it as well was a bit political as well.
Definitely.
I'm sure.
A lot of this, I mean, from Bronski Beat and Small Town Boyman, who was singing about gay rights and stuff like that.
Well, More to Love Than Boy Meets Girl.
Yeah.
The
Communard single, which is not just my favourite Communard single, but it's one of my favourite singles of the 80s. For a Friend, which is quite a ballady kind of thing. I've got the 7-inch of that, and that's about one of his friends. I don't think it was a former partner. I think it was just like a friend of his who died of AIDS, and so a lot of his work has that sort of either kind of socially political.
Maybe that's part of what appeals to me.
Or it's like quite a personal thing in relation.
Yeah.
I suppose in the 1980s, the gay scene was, still going through a lot of, sort of big changes and stuff.
No, but you say personal. That's the thing. You always struck to me like you're saying from the heart.
Yeah. And I think that's why, I think that's why he sustained a career for so long, really. He was someone who obviously, when you heard his lyrics and you analysed them, you realised that he was writing about real things and real and stuff he really believed in. I mean, it's it's great to write something nonsense like "I'm the Walrus," but it doesn't mean anything. It's just nonsensical. But Jimmy Somerville showed that you could have quite a few pop hits, and he did it over 3 acts really. He was in
exactly.
Then Communards with Richard Coles, and then he had quite a fairly decent run as a solo artist for a bit.
He did, very much so.
So it's a good shout. That I wouldn't.
That's right. I'm glad I picked that one in the end.
About liking him, like I say, I've got no qualms about liking "For a Friend" by Communards. I think that's a brilliant song, one of my favourites of the whole decade. And some other Communards stuff, I like "So Cold the Night." Even their cover, even though as covers go, it was probably a little bit lightweight. "Don't Leave Me This Way," which I think was the biggest selling single in 1986. Their cover of that.
Was that with the female group?
I mean, they often with the Communards, they often duetted with like one or two females, but
Yeah.
they weren't they were never official members, really, were they?
But it was almost like the role reversal because she was singing the low key
Yeah, I
parts,
know you.
or
I
she
know
was
you're
singing the
referring to. She had quite a deep voice, didn't she? Yeah.
yeah.
Her name
But it
was
worked. But it
Sarah
worked. It
something,
worked.
maybe. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
didn't even do "I Feel Loved" by Donna Summer.
Yeah, I think that
With
might
Mark
have been
Almond.
the last Bronski Beat single that he was on, because he would have left Bronski Beat and then they replaced him with someone else. That was Bronski Beat and Mark Almond. They did "I Feel Love" and "Love to Love You." It was like a medley, but I think we just called it "I Feel Love" or "I Feel Love Medley" or something like that. Yeah, so yeah, that's a good shout. I could understand why it'd be a little bit of a guilty pleasure, because it's not like sort of you see a load of people around, you know, in the vinyl community or elsewhere. "Oh, I'm a Jimmy Somerville fan." He's just someone no one talks about, isn't he? You know, he's kind of, you know, at least in sort of record collecting terms, and if not sort of general current contemporary chart music terms, he's someone he's a bit of a forgotten man, really, in a lot of ways.
I mean, apart from I think I've got about maybe 2 Bronski Beat singles. That's all I've got of his. But I wouldn't mind getting the was it Red, wasn't it?
Red was the Communard's second and final album.
I wouldn't mind getting that.
That would have
Whether
been
it be on
the
vinyl or
one with
CD or
For a
whatever.
Friend on it. That will, yeah. So there'll probably be a good album. That.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
You just want like one album by a band, say.
Yeah, but that, bear in mind that what I'm saying is that's the Communards, not Bronski Beat, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah. But that's what I said. I don't mind the Communards either.
Yeah, but you said I've got a couple of Bronski Beat
singles.
singles.
Oh yeah, but that's why I wanted to be. All right, Jimmy Somerville as a whole, then, shall we say?
I was just making sure you weren't getting confused.
No.
You're going to go away and look up "Red" by Bronski Beat or something like that.
I know it was by the Communards. I knew that.
Yeah. So anything else you want to say about Mr. James?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, I've only really got one more guilty pleasure that I've prepared for.
Yeah.
And this one, it's a weird one. This I'm gonna have to go into a little bit of an explanation, and I think I'm gonna have to do some more looking up. But it's my fourth and final choice.
Und es reicht, es ist leicht, ich hab sie nie dazu gemacht, es sind auch eure Kinder.
Well, yeah. I really get on to why I'm a bit sort of loath to in a minute, because he's quite controversial. In fact, a couple of my picks have been controversial too. Because we've had Angry Anderson, who's kind of like the Australian Donald Trump almost, and Bushido. The thing, I think I feel it's a little bit of a guilty pleasure, because I do like a lot of rap and a lot of hip hop, but it feels a bit weird for me to like some where I don't understand the words. You know, it's a bit unusual.
Yeah.
And now, bear in mind, I've been a Rammstein fan for donkey's years, and obviously I listen to a Rammstein track and I don't know, you know, almost everything that's been sung, but you know, it's easy to go and find translations of the lyrics, and then certain words you kind of get to know what they mean anyway.
Yeah.
Certain phrases, but when it's a rapper and it's all coming out quite fast, it's like, but I don't know. There's something about the way this guy anyway, and I'm not an expert by any stretch. I like it. I think Germans, or this guy in particular, if not his contemporaries, I don't know. I think they make for good rappers. I don't, even though, you know, they could be saying anything really.
Yeah.
It's an unusual one. So yeah, it's like sort of a joint choice here. It's like German rap or German hip hop / Bushido, because A, he's the only guy I know, but B, I'll read a few of his controversies, and there's quite a few of them actually. But his real name is Anis Mohammed Youssef Fachichi, who was born in 1978. His alias is Bushido. Obviously, he's a German rapper, hip hop producer, and entrepreneur. He's had a Tunisian father and a German mother. So you can go on his Wikipedia page, and basically there's like about 6 different articles about his various controversies. And the first one that comes up is he's often criticised in the media for his misogynistic, nationalist, and racist lyrics. So yeah, that's kind of a reason to feel guilty.
Yeah.
James says, not the German Hugh Edwards, is he? No, he's not as bad. No, he's even worse. Yeah, so he's you know, he's kind of been the German sort of you know, kind of, you know, gangster rap, particularly in the 90s. It glorified violence and misogyny. Well, I mean, a sort of Bushido, maybe 10 years afterwards, really was doing the same in Germany. I suppose he's like a German version of a gangster rapper. You know, some have pointed out though that, you know, he's part, you know, he's got a Tunisian parent, so he, you know, although his lyrics and his music get listened to and taken by the far right, you know, he's someone who, obviously, when you look at him, he's someone who is mixed race, which is ironic. Really. There's a track he's recorded called Electro Ghetto, and it does say the line in German, but then it translates it. I'm not going to try and say the German one, but the line in it is, salute, stand to attention, I'm the leader like A. And apparently the A is interpreted by many as referring to Adolf Hitler. So this song Electro Ghetto that he's done, you know, some people, I don't think he's ever confirmed or denied it. He just he's like a bit of a shithouse. He likes to kind of stir the pot, and if something's controversial, he'll just let it sort of bubble over. But apparently that lyric is, according to some people, referring to Adolf Hitler. And then there's a bit about misogyny and homophobia, where he frequently uses the German term Nutte, which means slut. But I mean, that's, you know, whether you find that particularly overly offensive is down to you. And he made some horrible remarks that I'm not going to repeat on here about Paris Hilton back in 2005. Other people, like more you know, German celebrities and German women who obviously we're not familiar with. And then he's also been accused of anti-Semitism, which I suppose anyone who's allegedly praising Hitler in a song might be considered an anti-Semite as well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
He's got lawsuits for assault as well. And he's that's quite a mild one actually. He's been done for copyright infringement as well. Wow. But you know, that's easily done. Yeah.
Yeah. It was hip hop.
And there we go. He's got links to organised crime as well. He apparently paid money to some Lebanese criminal leader or something like that in 2013. Protection or something like that. And he's feuded with other rappers. Yeah, basically a guy who, if you go on his Wikipedia, but it's fascinating actually. in a way, reading about his sort of life story and all his controversies is more interesting than the music's. You can read that and understand what you're reading it, but like you listen to his music, I really like it. That's the thing. But it's like I don't understand. I don't understand it because I don't understand German.
No, that's an interesting choice, mate. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a no. It's a no from me, Jimmy, says Rob. Yeah, I mean, all you vinyl community old fuckers, Rob, like you never want to or anything like that. It's all in Rob's case, he'll come on Ian's stream on a Thursday. Yeah, all right. So I've been listening to Paul Weller again this week. That's just been the last 4,000 weeks in a row,
Well, the funny thing is, though, saying that, like, but so much of hip hop is based around sampling old records.
Yeah. Did you reckon the first clip I played? Did you recognise the sample for that?
I did not actually know. I was more focused on his rapping, to be honest.
I could play it again. No, I won't.
No, don't want you getting into trouble.
I think that was actually someone featuring him, actually, rather than that. But if you go back and listen to that, if you want to listen to it again, the track's called Eure Kinder, by the way. EURE space Kinder, as in Kinder egg.
Yeah.
But if you go back and listen to that, you'll notice it samples "Rhythm Is a Dancer" by Snap.
All right, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, and obviously the last one is that's pretty easy. It's him featuring an old German singer who's now passed away now, called Carol Gott, and the track is für immer jung. And obviously, you could tell from the chorus it was just the German version of Alphaville's "Forever Young."
Right, yeah.
Bit of a stare. Yeah, sorry, Rob. But yeah, so I don't feel awfully guilty about the fact but I do like it. In a way, I kind of like listening to that, certainly over the last couple of years or more than sort of, what I'd call sort of, English language hip hop, American stuff. And I do like my American, Tupac and Notorious B.I.G. and people like that. But I'd say my favorite rapper. If I had to pick a favorite rapper certainly in like the last 3 years or so, I would say it's Bushido, because I've listened to a lot of his stuff. They're three of my particular favorites. Those ones, the middle one, the second one was Alice Valoran, I think that's called. My pronunciations are going to be shit in this, by the way.
Don't worry about it.
But I would say certainly in modern times, and I do want to get some of his stuff, but that leads me on to the guilt part. Like, he's like my favorite rapper currently, and has been for a couple of years or more. But do I really want to be buying the music of this guy who like controversy seems to follow him around like a bad smell? It's a bit of
You do wonder when sort of see some of the artists, they're deliberately trying to be controversial in order to sell records. Do you know what I mean? Some of them probably don't. Who was it? Right. Going off on a tangent, admittedly. Right? But, Money for Nothing. Right?
Dire Straits, yeah.
Yeah. And Mark Knopfler, Money for Nothing. Everyone said that's homophobic. Right?
Yeah, and it had one sort of word in it, didn't it?
Yeah. But he was playing this character, which was the conversation that he'd overheard. And that's how he came up with the term "money for nothing," right? And it was this person's outlook. So what you're seeing on stage, or their character, I mean, even Marilyn Manson, I mean, I know he's had a bit of dodgy stuff going on.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's as bad as what I don't know what it is. I don't want to
know. People play up to, what. Yeah. Often it's perpetuated by. Often it's perpetuated by the media.
Exactly.
You can. I mean, if you go back all the way to the mid-late 60s, I mean, the Rolling Stones were demonized in the media just for liking they liked to take drugs when at home. You know, they got they got the it was either Jagger or Richard's house was busted, and the did they serve a a jail sentence, but then they got released early or something, or did he not go to? I'm not sure exactly, but
no.
And then a few years later, it was like even the tide was turning and with the establishment and the media, and they were saying, "Oh, why did we persecute Jagger and Richards for just like having a few spliffs and
it's not like they were peddling it to anybody else.
Tabs of acid, it was like." It was like we overreacted a bit there, and I think it's often the case. I can think of a really good example of overreaction, but I'm not going to talk about it because it's got nothing to do with music, really. I can think of one right now because I'm reading about him at the moment.
Yeah.
But,
tell us later, mate.
Yeah,
if you want to.
Rob's daughter wants to see that Barbie film. That'd be a real guilty pleasure. Assuming it'd be a pleasure at all. Personally, I think going to see a film starring that bloody Ryan Gosling as well. He's just got a face. I just want to.
This isn't CGI then. This is proper actors.
Oh yeah, it's live action, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
So who the hell they get to play?
Gosling's Ken and Barbie's, who played Harley Quinn. What's her name?
Oh right, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I can't think of her name.
Someone will say it in the chat now.
No. That's a bit of a weird role. Yeah. Okay.
So that's and I'm not really prepared for anything else after those four. Like I say, a couple of things sprung to mind. One of them touched upon earlier about Boyzone's cover of Father and Son. Margot Robbie, that's the one. Yeah, Margot.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, a name had slipped me. But so it's a kind of almost like a joint German hip hop, because I think that it's weird for me as an English speaker to have my favorite rapper be a German. But then again, like I said, Rammstein have been my second favorite band for many years now. And each time they bring something new out, I'm like, I'm going to have to try and find a translation for this at some point.
Well, you say things like that. What about Nana Cherry? I can never remember the guy's name that she sings with. 7 Seconds.
Use and Adore.
That is a brilliant song. I don't know what he's singing.
It's in 3 languages. That it's in English, French, and it's like now I don't want to say Malawian because that's probably the wrong term, but it's like a sort of regional dialect from.
I remember reading something about it. I can't remember what now.
English, French, and then whatever regional dialect Use and Adore was brought up speaking.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say that sort of foreign music, non-English language music should be a guilty pleasure. I mean, one of my favorite singles of all time, it's Je t'aime moi non plus by Jane Birkin and Serge Gainsbourg. That reminds me, Jane Birkin passed away recently.
Oh, no. That's a shame.
Aged, I wonder if it might still be in my alerts on my phone.
It's got to be 80 odd, surely.
Let me see if I can find it. I got the alert through some time ago, so it might have. There we are. She was aged 76, so. Yeah. But then again, she was. I mean, Serge Gainsbourg when he did that with Jane Birkin. I mean, I think he was like in his 30s by then already, whereas Jane Birkin, it was probably something like she would have been like 18, 20 maybe, something like that, around 68, 69. So, that's an interesting one for foreign language guilty pleasures. It's quite a good choice, actually, because it's a bit of a novelty song for me, really. Y Viva España by Sylvia.
Yeah, I can sort of...
It's the Criterion
It's one of those... Yeah. When you've had a few berries...
I don't like the song. I think it's a pile of crap, but... It does bring back some nice memories of being on holiday in Mallorca and places like that. Yeah. So I can't fully hate that. I want to hate it like I hate bloody anything Black Lace have ever done.
The thing is, right? You said about Black Lace. Well, that was the thing. When I was about 12 to about 18, all the people on our street, we'd always have these parties, and every bloody party, especially at Christmas, was Sonic Black Blaze. But everyone was so off their face on drink and that nobody cared.
Well, yeah, I suppose if you're that drunk, then
yeah, exactly.
Anything's going to sound all right. They can put a tape on of your farts, Jason. And
yeah. Well, you keep promising to release an album, mate.
Enough about what I do in my private time. Here we go again. Like we're still having it. Yeah. Some people ABBA are a guilty pleasure. Yeah. I talked about this before you came in, Rob. I suppose they would be for some people. I personally would not choose them for this because I don't feel guilty about liking it. I'm not a massive ABBA fan. I've only really got into them since Voyage came out, really.
Yeah.
But and I don't like the Mamma Mia movies. I wouldn't pick my nose to go and watch them.
No, well, they're a bit trite, aren't they? To be fair.
But as actual ABBA as in a pop band, not a problem. No guilt.
Yeah.
So, Carpenters, I don't really like Carpenters.
It's one or two songs maybe.
I know T.C. Kirkham, who he was the guy who I was talking to you a bit about yesterday, Jace, last night. He's a massive Carpenters fan. He thinks the sun shines out of Karen Carpenter's bum.
A lot of people do.
I personally, she's got a good voice, but it doesn't speak to me very much. And it's another cover version. What I do really love is the Carpenters version of Occupants of Interplanetary Craft.
Who did the original of that?
I'd go as far to say that's a bit of a guilty pleasure, really.
Yeah.
I think their cover of that, I really like it.
Yeah, who was that by originally then?
Clartu, that was originally by.
Yeah.
That's an interesting group, actually, Clartu, because they're from Canada, but they had kind of like they were sort of quite anonymous to begin with. When they first started releasing music, people were convinced the Beatles had got back together. And it was the Beatles, but they were all doing it under an assumed name. And then it were a few years before it came out that it was actually this Canadian group called Clartu.
Yeah.
And they did, and
I must have only had that one version.
All in Occupants of Interplanetary Craft, but the Carpenters version I think is really good. I like the original. They're almost on a par for me. They're almost equal. But if I had to pick one, I'd say the Carpenters one.
I'm trying to remember the song. Is that the one? She's on a phone call to a loved one.
Might be. I can't remember a promo video for it, but it's quite an old thing now, so there probably is one somewhere.
Yeah, I think I know the one. Then maybe I may be getting two songs muddled up. Because didn't someone like Sarah Brightman do some sort of sci-fi song with somebody, with Mike Oldfield?
She might have done. I'm not sure. I quite like Sarah.
Oh no, I know what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of Moonlight Shadow. That was Sarah Brightman.
All right, cheers. Thank you, James. Thanks for coming in, mate. Appreciate it. 1977, says Rob, was presumably the Carpenters version. I don't think Clartu's was much before that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Clartu, they're an interest. If you look them, I feel like I'm plugging Wikipedia a load tonight. If you go on Wikipedia and look up Clartu, I think they've spelled KLAATU, and read about how the people were convinced, and these were like people in the recording industry, disc jockeys, record label management and stuff like that. They were convinced it were the Beatles who had reformed, but they were doing it like secretly, and they didn't want to put anything out as the Beatles. And it was quite a while before people started, believing the actual truth of that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting stuff certainly for a Beatles fan like myself. So yeah, German hip hop and Bushido in particular.
Yeah, interesting.
A guilty pleasure of mine. I would urge people, if they can get past kind of his personal and private problems, and well, they're not that private really, are they? They're all over the internet. I would urge people, if you're into rap,
Yeah.
a lot of modern hip hop and modern rap I'm not bothered about, but for some reason I think Germany's got a real kind of good scene, and he seems to be like kind of like at the head of the table. Do you know what I mean? He's like there's quite a few of them. Like I say, the first clip I played, it was someone featuring him, so it was like a similar artist.
Yeah.
But he's sort of like he's kind of like the kind of main player, but he's I want to collect his stuff or some of it. I'd like to say I'd got an album by him at some point, but it's a bit of a pig trying to collect him at the moment. I do look for him on Discogs from time.
Where was Snap from?
Pardon?
So Snap, the group, where were they from?
Well, they originated in Germany.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
German Eurodance act.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, so they were okay. They didn't mind Snap.
Rob would class Elton John as a guilty pleasure. Yeah, some of his stuff. Oh, hang on, I think Jason's doing a bit of show and tell here.
I haven't actually got the record. I don't think. Oh, no, I have. No, I have. Right. I didn't even know this was in my collection.
What is that? Is that a 12-inch single?
Oh, it's an album, and it's what's it called? I can't see it. So this light's fade. Anyway, no, it's difficult for me to tell. Sorry, I can't tell in this light. Pull it back a bit. Can you see? It's an album anyway.
It's an Elton John record, but I can't tell what album that is.
No.
The sleeve doesn't look very familiar at all, to be honest.
Yeah. Anyway, no, I discovered that. Didn't even know I had it. So it must have been in a bundle that someone gave me or something. Or I picked up from the car boot sale and forgot I had.
Elton John, guilty pleasure. Some of his stuff just doesn't speak to me whatsoever. No. But I do like Sacrifice. I think even though it knocked New Order off the number one in 1990, I do really like that. It's one of his and other things he's done are all right, but I can never get massively into him. Like, cause his albums are getting reissued a lot now, and a lot of the vinyl community are going apeshit for him. And I'm
I think
it's Elton John. Come on.
I think he's another one. It's another one of these ones that you might get the best of, but that's probably it.
There we go. It's apparently Caribou from 1976. That album.
All right, thank you, mate.
I'd never heard of Caribou. I wouldn't have. No. I couldn't list a load of them anyway. But if you'd asked me to list a bunch of Elton John albums, I'd never be able to do.
I think it's got "Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me" on it, the original.
Right, you're saying average. Yeah, that's how I feel about him. I don't hate the guy's work off the board, but I just find a lot of his stuff I just find a bit bland, and just wouldn't do much for me.
I have you're sort of saying that. I have got an extra pick that I was going to put ahead of Jimmy Somerville, but some people may not think this is guilty, right?
Well, if you feel guilty about it,
a little bit, because it's a bit.
We have got time for one more, Jason. Yeah. So if you've got any that you've got to pick from, then pick your guiltiest is what I'd say.
Well, I think he's considered a bit twee now. He was part of a very, very successful 80s band who I love. I think they're great, but solo, not so much, and that's Sting. Because he's a bit twee, isn't he?
Yeah.
Some of his stuff.
Yeah, he's someone else. His solo stuff particularly can be very bland. It's like, to me, it's like he's a bit sort of elevator music. It's like you can put him on sort of like when you're like taking a lift somewhere, and it's just background noise, really.
Yeah, it's very sort of sedate, isn't it?
But I will say, "Fields of Gold" is a fine single.
Yeah, I do like more the original than the sort of like the duet that he did. But I do like "Englishman in New York." I do like that song.
Yeah, I prefer the remix of it when it got remixed. But
is that Pato Banton?
No. That was years after, and I don't think they collaborated on that. I think that was something else. No, just about when because Englishman in New York, I think originally came out maybe 85, 86, and then it got
Yeah.
remixed about 87 or 88. I think it might have been
Yeah.
by possibly DNA or someone like that, but it was a bigger hit the second time because I had like
Let
a
me have a
dance
look.
to it.
That's
Rob said
bugging me now.
Robbie Walker. That's your new name, Rob. Robbie Walker. Let the music play. Says Robbie Williams is a guilty pleasure. You quite like his early solo records. Funnily enough, I've got his first 3 albums all on mini disc, but not because I'm a fan particularly. Some of it's all right, they're listenable if nothing else. But I got them because they were quite cheap to get on mini disc. But yeah, anyway, Sting.
Yeah, he's one of those. Let's say the Police are brilliant, but
I think brilliant's overrating it. A lot of people in the VC would agree with you. Like you often hear people like praising like the such and such a Police albums, like an absolute classic, and it's like I've listened to like most of it or all the singles off it, and I'm like, well, it's all right, but it's like kind of it's sort of late 70s, early 80s new wave kind of cod reggae, really, isn't it? It's like if I want to hear a bunch of white people do reggae, I'll listen to UB40 myself,
Yeah, I suppose. No, I was right.
He says police a 10 out of 10. I think
I wouldn't go that far.
No, I certainly wouldn't. I think
about an 8.
We talked about overrated artists, but I perhaps should have included the Police because I think I do like some of their stuff. I had their album Synchronicity as well. I think it might be one that I got rid of some time ago though.
Yeah.
But I had Synchronicity, and it was a fairly good record. Obviously not that good, otherwise I would have kept it. But
the Englishman in New York song, it was Pat O'Banton.
Yeah, but I'm on about before. I'm not about the 90s. I'm on about around 1987. It got remixed.
Oh, right. Okay, I don't know about that one.
Well, you probably do because it's probably the remix you're originally thinking of. Because no one really heard the original version because it's like it's almost like a kind of jazz vocal kind of thing.
Right. That I did not know.
When you agree with us two, I'll start to worry as well, Rob. Yeah, some of the stuff I know you're into. I mean, blooming heck. I mean,
I don't like everything Rob likes, by the way.
Speaking of Rob and what he's into, like that was something else. Like, I don't know. It wasn't the same Top of the Pops episode as the gay shaky thing. It was a different one, but it was probably like I probably watched it the same day. It was a clip of a Style Council single. It was like "Welcome to Milton Keynes," and I thought this is absolute horseshit. Why did they release this as a single? I'd like to know Rob's opinion about that because of him being a Paul Weller super fan. So, but I think it's called "Welcome to Milton Keynes." I was listening to it. I'm like, this is absolute garbage. It was like beyond a joke. It's like if someone else had done it, you'd have thought, oh, this is a novelty song. And then you see bloody Paul Weller and Mick Talbot, and it's like, what the fuck are they doing? Absolute class. Oh, bloody hell, Rob. You want your ears cleaning out, mate. That is one of the worst singles I've heard.
I've not heard it, so I can't say.
I think some of the Style Council stuff, it's not really to my taste, but it's all right. But
there are bands,
was just absolute horse shit.
There are bands when they came out, I thought they're not that great. But over the years,
compared to the Jam, obviously.
No, but they still made some good tunes.
I found Paul Weller as a solo artist, and I mean Rob.
As a solo artist, he's done some great stuff.
I found the majority of his solo stuff. I mean, really boring. Really, it's just someone who's kind of like is there, isn't he? He's kind of like he's not offensive. He doesn't make bad music, but he doesn't make. You don't make music that kind of, makes you sit up and get excited for me anyway. But anyway, we've talked about Sting really. We've touched on to the Style Council and more specifically Weller here.
But no, I mean, I've seen Paul Weller live at Reading Festival, and I thought he was quite good live. To be fair, right? I like that kind of.
He doesn't strike me as someone who can really get a crowd going though.
He did. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, he did.
That's
Yeah, it was. I can't remember. I think he was on before Bjork. I can't remember. Or they might even have been in two separate tents. It was a bit difficult to tell because my mate was spaced out on acid at the time, and he was running backwards and forwards between the two stages, and I was trying to keep up with him. So yeah. But no, he got quite a lot of people into it. It's that easy. You can almost say it's easy listening funk.
Mm.
You know, he's a good bass player. You know, he's always he's a funny looking chap as well. He's always had the haircut for about 50 years.
Bit ironic coming from you, Jason, calling someone else funny looking. But okay.
Yeah, well,
Rob says we all have our favourites, and Paul's that's true.
Enough,
we all like what we like. I mean, Rob's wondering why you called him a bass player. I was about to say,
I'm sure he played bass, didn't he?
I know Sting used to play bass, but you're not getting him mixed up with Sting again, are you?
I don't think so. I'm sure he's played bass.
He was a bass player in the Police, Sting.
Oh yeah, he was. Yeah. Sting definitely was.
But, Paul Weller was a guitarist, I think.
I could have sworn.
You probably can play bass as well, and I imagine if you can play one, then you're probably all right at playing the other. But I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure he's played bass on some of his tunes. Sure, he has.
Paul Weller will take our comments on board. Yeah. I don't give a shit if he did or not. Really, but he's a lead guitarist.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So anything else you want to say about Sting, really? Because we kind of not really talked much about him.
No. Just he is what he is. You know, he's sort of meat and potatoes.
Yeah, as a solo guy, not a lot of his stuff's really done anything for me. And I know I'm in the minority because you like them and Rob thinks they're great, but the Police for me, for me, they're hit and miss really. For every good single they've done, like the next one's kind of been a bit of a dud for me. But just going back to Weller again, the Jam, great singles band. I don't think the Jam released a Duff single. Bye, Rob. Thank you for coming in, mate. His toast's burning, so he's going to go and sort that out. Thank you, Rob.
Mate.
I think that's probably a good point for us to end it, really. Unless, Jason, you've got anything really desperately to say about any.
No, the only other thing I had listed, I might as well say it, was Whitney Houston's "I Want to Dance with Somebody."
Great song. Don't feel guilty about that.
Fair enough. Okay.
It's even better when the Justified Ancients of Moo Moo sample it, though.
Yeah. No, but she was a weird one. It's sort of like I found her very hit and miss as well. But no, I think that's a great sort of.
I can understand why for you it'd be a guilty pleasure. What I'm saying is it's a good song. Great pop song. Probably arguably Whitney's best. I think for me. Because I don't like all their ballads and stuff. They're all too sort of earnest and you get on me tits. But
especially that bloody Dolly Parton cover version.
Well, yeah. Well, so we've discussed our guilty pleasures. We will be back again in a couple of weeks. We've been talking about what we're going to be doing, but obviously we'll leave that as a surprise. Until I get the streaming 2 weeks set up in readiness. So join us again, hopefully. Why don't you? Thank you to everyone who's contributed in the chat. Thank you to anyone who may have watched till this point on replay as well. That's appreciated. If you've got any of your own guilty pleasures, then please let us know in the comments. We'd like to have a chat with you there as well. Thank you, Jason, for co-hosting the old Sodcast as usual.
Always a pleasure.
And unless anything changes and we have to alter the schedule, we should be back in a fortnight's time.
Yep,
All being well.
Don't think there's anything going on that I know of.
No, so there we go. If there is, I'll update people via the community tab on YouTube.
Could I just ask, right? You know, me and Jimmy, we still got a few ideas kicking about, but if you've got anything that you would in particular like us to cover, something that you and you know, I'm not saying one artist, right? I'm not, because you know we'd have to be something that we'd have to like, obviously, but if there's a particular type of music or something in music that you think we ought to cover, that you feel strongly about, and you think you can contribute to, then by all means, please say, right? Because obviously we want to. I personally don't want to be too self-indulgent with it. I want to do stuff that you know, other people are going to get a kick out of.
Yeah, I can't imagine you ever being self-indulgent.
No, but you know what I'm getting at, though.
Basically, Jason in his wonderfully roundabout ways saying, if you've got any ideas, suggestions for future Sodcasts, please let us know, because I'm always racking my brains for new ideas. So if anyone's got any other ideas and things like that, then just let us know in the comments, or shoot me a message, shoot Jason a message if you need to be in touch with him. But until in 2 weeks' time, and we'll be back. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you very, very soon. And good night to everybody. Thank you for indulging our pleasures this evening.